I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Wednesday, September the 9th, 2015. The IDF is investigating a shooting attack this morning in the West Bank. A Palestinian gunman opened fire on an Israeli vehicle near the Tapuach junction. While bullets hit the car, the two female passengers inside the vehicle escaped unharmed. Army units were searching the area for the suspect. A jury in Kansas has recommended that the man who shot and killed 3 people outside 2 Jewish centers last year be sentenced to death. 74-year-old Frazier Glenn Cross, who once served as Grand Dragon of the North Carolina Ku Klux Klan, was found guilty last month of the murders of 14-year-old Reed Underwood, his grandfather, 69-year-old William Corcoran, outside the Jewish Community Center of Greater Kansas City, and 53-year-old Terry Lamano outside a Jewish retirement home nearby. Cross had told the jury that he shot the 3 because he thought they were Jewish. None of them were. Formal sentencing for Cross is scheduled for November the 10th. The U.S. State Department has designated 3 members of Hamas and 1 member of Hezbollah as terrorists on their list. The State Department announced yesterday that Hezbollah spokesman Samir Kuntar and Hamas military leaders Yahya Sinwar, Ruhi Mushtaqa, and Muhammad Deif are now on the specially designated global terrorist list, meaning that any assets the 4 might have in the U.S. jurisdictions are now frozen, and Americans are not allowed to do business with the 4. Kuntar, Sinwar, and Mushtaqa were all released by Israel during prisoner exchanges. Deif is still at large, having survived several assassination attempts by Israel. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arrived in London today to meet with British Prime Minister David Cameron, part of his campaign to garner support for Israel from European leaders. Before taking off, Netanyahu said Europe needs to support Israel, not pressure Israel, and not attack Israel, but support Israel, which is the only true protection Europe has in the Middle East against surging extremist Islam. Some minor confrontations broke out between pro-Palestinian and anti-Israel protesters who are against Netanyahu's visit, between them and police outside Cameron's residence. The 2 leaders will meet tomorrow. Israel's embassy in Cairo, Egypt, is once again open 4 years to the day after a mob attack forced its closure. If you recall, on September the 9th of 2011, thousands of Egyptian protesters broke into the embassy, forcing the evacuation of 6 security guards by Egyptian commandos after the direct intervention from U.S. President Barack Obama. Today, Israeli Foreign Ministry Director General Dori Gold attended the special ceremony in Cairo to reopen the embassy, where he said that Prime Minister Netanyahu and Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi were now, quote, working together for the sake of stability and prosperity in the Middle East. The ceremony was also attended by the Israeli diplomatic team in Cairo, headed by Ambassador Chaim Koren, as well as U.S. Ambassador to Egypt, Stephen Beecroft. Israel's Defense Minister Moshe Ya'alon has outlawed 2 Islamist groups who have been protesting at the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. Members of the Murabitun and Murabitat are now outlawed. A statement from the Defense Ministry said Ya'alon made the move following recommendations from the Israel Police and Israel's security agency, the Shin Bet, saying the groups are a, quote, major cause of tension and violence on the Temple Mount and in Jerusalem in general, saying they target Jewish visitors and tourists at the site. Ya'alon said that while Israel allows for freedom of worship for all, there was no room for violent elements who incite and threaten. Jewish-American reggae singer and musician Matisyahu made a surprise appearance Friday at the Jerusalem Sacred Music Festival. The singer arrived in the city at the end of his European tour for the finale of the festival on Friday afternoon. He said the festival is, quote, proof that music should and can always transcend politics. Matisyahu was recently the target of the BDS, Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions movement that seeks to delegitimize the State of Israel, when pressure from the movement caused the organizers of Spain's Rototom Sunsplash Reggae Festival to cancel his performance there last month. They then apologized and re-invited him to perform, which he did. In addition to Friday's Israel performance, Matisyahu announced that he'll be back in Jerusalem over the Sukkot holiday with his full band performing at the city's Sultan's Pool on October the 10th. And taking a look now at our programming for tonight, Wednesday, September the 9th. At 8 o'clock, Senior Rabbi of the Sinai Temple in Los Angeles, California, Rabbi David Wolpe, talks about his book on King David. At 9, Mark Golub sits down with Ken Feinberg, the man who determined compensation for families of victims of 9/11. At 10, New York Times Jerusalem Bureau Chief Ethan Bronner sits down with Time Magazine's Barton Gellman to describe the journalistic challenges involved in reporting on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. That's from the 92nd Street Y in New York City. And coming up right after this newscast tonight, Thinking Out Loud with Micah Halpern. And that's the JBS News Update for Wednesday, September the 9th, 2015. I'm Teisha Bader.